What is the stupidest way you almost died? Went to go visit a friend in Gloucester, Mass. in winter back in high school far from my home. I was planning on staying overnight at their house, but their mother, who I now know has mental health problems, wouldn't even let me in the house because the father wasn't home working a night shift. Friend said sorry bro and closed the door. Almost froze to death waiting outside in 10° Fahrenheit at night. A cab driver saw me slumped on a bench and woke me up. Let me get warm and drive around in the passenger seat while he picked up drunk people out on the town all night. When he finished his shift, he dropped me off at the train station and handed me $7 for the fare. Dude probably saved my life and I can't even remember his name. Every couple of years I hospitalize a college bro dude who is hypothermic, drunk, and left for dead in a snowbank. Usually by his fellow brothers, a very specific and recurrent scenario. This is how my cousins died. Brother and sister were super close. Got into meth and decided to walk home, the cops assume, high at night. They were found frozen to death in the morning. Feel so bad for their mom, as she was a single mom trying to stay clean and lost them both in one night. Haven't heard from her since. That's too many compounding tragedies to handle at once. Terrible. Swam under a shipyard pier at night, solid concrete above me, and lost my sense of direction. Got lucky and found my way out. Edit, thanks for all the upvotes, awards, and words of encouragement. To add more detail, a friend and I were assault swimmers attacking a ship for a training exercise at night. We would swim from pier pylon to pylon underwater. Take a breath, go under, push off, and swim 20 to the next pylon, surface and repeat. My mask broke and I was doing it with my eyes closed due to having contacts at the time. One time I just kept swimming and felt like I missed the pylon. When I went to slowly broach the surface, I found myself under the concrete above. I had no idea the pier was even built like that. Put my hands up and oriented myself. It looked dark in all directions, but my gut told me to the right is where I came from. After that, I stayed on the surface. Cheers. Oh God, this is my nightmare. Fortunately, you can avoid this by not swimming under a shipyard pier at night. I snorkeled too far out into the ocean, and it wasn't because it was a riptide, I just got distracted by pretty fish. Oh wow. This just reminded me of the one time I actually was afraid of imminent death. I was snorkeling with sea turtles in Taiwan and didn't notice I was getting too close to the coral shelf that made up the shore. There was one sandy inlet which you needed to use to get in and out. A big wave came and threw me on top of the sharp coral. I was entirely disoriented and wave after wave was just smashing on me and jostling me, which could potentially get me stuck and drowned in any number of little crevices. After what was probably 30 seconds but felt like 5 minutes, I managed to compose myself enough to start crawling away. I walked away with some scratches and a missing booty. I also accidentally left my passport in the bathroom of the visitor center immediately after. I'ma blame the trauma. Drove on an interstate during a hurricane and watched all the cars around me get submerged. That must have been terrifying. The scariest moments of my life. I remember thinking of trying to do a U-turn across the median but realizing the guardrail was there and there was no getting out. Stuck my head out the car window. BC, I wanted to see why dogs loved it. My grandpa didn't notice, rolled up the window, and I choked. He freaked out when he heard the cat-like noises, ironic, I was making while my neck was trying to squeeze through the small opening of the window, but kept raising the window in his panic. Eventually he got it and I was left with a red mark on my neck and no closer to understanding dogs. Edit, thanks for the awards. My grandpa passed earlier this year, so it's a nice way to remember him, and I know he get a chuckle to know people found it funny. Edit 2, it was meant to be funny, so don't feel bad for laughing. My lil sis was in the seat next to me when this happened and she was laughing too, funny then, funny now. Ever see the movie Hereditary? Yes, it definitely made me squirm way more. Being sleepy on the road. Don't. Find a spot and sleep a bit. Edit, thanks people for the awards. Seriously, it happened to me twice. You think you won't fall asleep, but you will. This is absolutely the most terrifying thing to happen. I've dozed off a few times and woke up just before flying off-road. Now I make sure if I'm too tired to drive, I immediately pull over on the side of the road, and give myself a few minutes to rest, or call a friend and ask them to stay on the phone with you to keep you awake. I was at a water park in Texas with one of those super tall, straight down slides. They had multiple signs saying things like do not push off before sliding down. Me being an 18-year-old idiot and wanting to race my friend, I decided to push off. That extra push started my slow motion, airborne flight over the slide. I was then staring 100 feet down at concrete and my other friend who had his jaw open. What felt like minutes later, I smacked back down onto the slide and made my way down to the bottom. Thank God for the engineers that planned for suicidal idiots like myself. Isn't this the exact reason some really tall slides start out as a solid tube before opening into a half tube after 15 or so feet? Grown adult and choked on mozzarella cheese. Was only alone for 20 minutes. Can't imagine the obituary. When I was 15, I was so worried about choking to death that I'd cry if I had to be home alone. You just didn't want to go with not eating anything until someone came home? I walked into a back room freezer of a grocery store. The huge door was designed to close automatically. I knew this and went in and did what I was there to do. After 30 seconds, I couldn't catch my breath. I thought maybe I was just working too hard, so I stopped and took several huge breaths. Nothing. I felt like I was drowning out of water. I had to move as quickly as I could back outside of the freezer and feel to my knees gasping when I got out. It was only afterwards I realized for some dumb reason someone kept open dry ice in a cart inside of the freezer. Dry ice removes oxygen out of the air in enclosed spaces. I almost died from lack of oxygen and would have been an icicle when they found me. Don't duck with dry ice. It was only afterwards I realized for some dumb reason someone kept open dry ice in a cart inside of the freezer. Who was the severely irresponsible dipshit that left open a case of dry ice in an enclosed area? Did someone get fired for that? Because that sounds like something you get fired over. While drunk, I sat down outside, to rest for a moment, on a freezing cold winter's night. Fortunately, a passerby noticed me and encouraged me to get inside. I figure I was probably there dozing for several minutes. My boss's friend died that way last winter. Passed out in the alley behind the bar. Froze to death. Reading this comment section, freezing to death seems the most common stupid way to die. Shit, I would have died like this years ago if I lived somewhere cold. Came very close, about 2 inches, to backing into a warehouse rack full of 2-ton coils of sheet metal when I didn't realize that my forklift was in reverse. That'd do it. I was in 2nd or 3rd grade. I was getting off the school bus and was walking around to the other side to my driveway. Suddenly the bus driver hits the horn, scared the hell out of me, and I stopped at the edge of the front of a bus and a dump truck good speeding around. I dunno if the dump truck driver didn't see the lights of the bus or whatever, but that driver made a dumb mistake that could have cost me my life. Thinking about it, my older sister was up at our driveway waiting for me. Probably would have messed her up for life after that. The school district changed bus routes to avoid students having to cross the road to get on or off the bus. The amount of people I see speed by stopped school buses astounds me. Just watched it happen the other day, too. Disappointing and baffling. My husband did it once and I lost my mind. He spent all of his life in a large city and never learned school bus rules in driver's ed because they only had city buses. We moved to the country and he had no idea you were supposed to stop, thought the flashing red lights were just like hazard lights on a car and it meant to use caution. Now he knows, but FFS you'd think all driver's tests would require you to know those rules. Edit driver's ed was in 1970s Chicago. The incident occurred on a narrow, winding country road and we were passing in the opposite direction. He thought the stop sign was for people trying to pass from behind the bus. In no way was his mistake malicious. This is a guy that gets depressed when he has to mow the lawn because it kills so many grasshoppers. He doesn't have a malicious bone in his body. Choked on a lifesaver. Edit. No, the hole in the center is not for breathing. Lifesavers have holes in them because the inventor, Clarence Crace, wanted to create a unique candy. Back in 1912, 109 years ago. I choked on a lifesaver too. Me mom's solution was to pour burning hot water down my throat to try to melt it. I remember when I got super sick one vacation and my mom's solution was to make me stand in a burning hot shower. I kept telling her it was too hot and she told me just suck it up. My vision faded to black and suddenly I was lying on the floor of the bathtub, then black, then I was in my mom's arms wrapped in a towel. I think my dad was there too, then black, then I was lying on the bed and my mom was sobbing on top of me. She thought I was dead. Maybe you'll think next time before cooking me like a ducking lobster, Mom. What's the thinking here? With the hot water, I mean, how would it cure you, make you feel better? People are extremely stupid when put under pressure. My mom once saw my teeth had a weird color, from tea, And it was picture day, so she freaked and tried filing off the color. Yay, she went to town on my teeth with a file. Using a toothbrush didn't cross her mind even for a second. Some people just stop functioning when they're stressed. Bruh.